Thank you to Christopher Lee for being a patron. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, the link is in the description. Hi, this is Adam from Ads Productions, and this is the review of the 360 camera by D-Link. As always with these reviews, let's get the technical specifications out of the way. This features a minimum illumination of black and white mode IR LEDs on 0 lux. It's got a lens focal point of 3.0mm, an aperture of f2.0, a 5 meter IR illumination distance, and here are the angles of view. Horizontal 120 degrees, vertical 62 degrees, diagonal 138 degrees. It does have a built-in infrared cut removable filter, ICR for short, and it has a built-in microphone and speaker. The video compression it uses is H.264, and the main video resolution profile is 1080p. That's 1920 by 1080 at up to 30 frames per second. The audio support is MPEG-2 AAC LC, and for connectivity it has 802.11 NG wireless with the latest 128-bit wireless encryption. It's got a standard RJ45 base Ethernet port, and you also have Bluetooth Low Energy 4.2. Okay, enough of the boring stuff. Let's talk about how this device looks and feels. First of all, it's small. It's about the size of a Coke can. Maybe the American sized Coke cans rather than the European sized Coke cans, but still, it's quite a small, cylindrical design. Immediately it does look very 2020. I wouldn't say it's an older looking device. I think it's looking like it's a state-of-the-art surveillance piece of kit, which obviously helps when you're trying to promote and sell D-Link security products. It would have been nice to have some sort of battery power here rather than having to have it plugged in, but that's just what it is. In order to use this camera, you need to make sure it's plugged in at all times rather than having some sort of battery power that you can place it anywhere around the house. Obviously there are pros and cons with that. The pros are the fact that you don't have to keep replacing the batteries. The cons are, hey, you can't place it anywhere in your house and have more of a remote device, but it is what it is. What's also really cool about this camera is that when you enable something called privacy mode, where you don't want it recording anything, the camera will actually move upwards and into itself so that you can't physically see anything through the lens anyway. Even if somebody were to infiltrate the camera and see what they could see, they would just see blackness because the lens has actually gone up inside the casing of the camera rather than just having it done via software. And it also gives you that reassurance to say, hey, even if in the worst case scenario someone managed to get into my system and see my camera, as long as privacy mode is on, you're not actually going to see anything. This is a really cool feature. So one of the biggest things when it comes to surveillance cameras and things like that is the storage, because storage is not free wherever you kind of place it. Whether it's local storage, you're going to have SD cards, you're going to have a NAS drive. If it's cloud, you're going to be paying for some sort of subscription. Those are exactly the options that are also available with this camera. You've got the cloud-based storage that you can set in the My D-Link app, so that anytime there's an event, it will record to the cloud. You can also do record to SD card, which I've just talked about earlier on, which will save to the local storage media that's actually inserted into the camera. If you want to go ultra localized storage, you can use your NAS drive. If you have a NAS drive, you can take advantage of ONVIF, which basically is the global open standard for the interface of physical IP-based security products. Yes, I did read that from the Google search, but essentially it's allowing you to use some camera with whatever NAS drive operating system that you want to choose. In this example, I set up the camera using Synology's surveillance station. It allowed me to find the camera using ONVIF, which again is like an open source, completely free standard to allow you to use whatever camera with whatever NAS drive, free of charge with third-party software. Obviously, it's not actively promoted by D-Link, but it's really nice that they've included on the box as well to say, hey look, we understand that some of you might want to use your cameras with your local storage and not have D-Link involved in any of that process. If that's the case, ONVIF is for you. Let's say you've set everything up, you've got your cameras in place, or just the one camera. You could have just this one camera in your living room. You go outside, you do what you need to do during the day, and then movement is detected within your house. Be it a cat moving across the screen, be it a person. With this movable camera, it will see them and it will follow them, allowing you to capture much more of the context about why they're there, just to avoid any false alarms and to answer any questions or concerns that you have when you look at your phone to see who is in your house and why. You could have times where a certain part of the screen that's in frame for the camera to record is always slightly moving. An example of this would be a tree that's slightly blowing in the wind, and then also in the frame is a stationary chair. What you can do is you can use the software and what's called the edge detection, which basically means you can define the specific area that you care about movement and activity in. When you have this area, the software and the detection of the camera will only focus on this, meaning that you can have someone doing star jumps by that tree and the camera will not pick up a suspicious activity. However, if somebody sits in the chair, it's going to say, hold on a minute, there's activity in this selected edge area. Again, one of those things you don't think about being very useful until you actually use it. I found it worked very well. I did try and test it by sitting towards the edge of each frame that I defined, and it picked it up 100% of the time. Really, really nice. Oh, and just in case you were wondering, it does have a night vision mode. You can see people up to 5 meters in the dark. I tested this as best as I could. I made the room as dark as possible. As soon as you reduce the light, or turn it off for that matter, it will adjust, and in a second, or just under a second, it will compensate and light up the image. So if you're worried about night vision, don't worry, this has it. Probably my most favourite feature of this camera, just because of ease of use, is the panoramic view angle. Let me explain. So using the wizard of the My D-Link app, you allow the camera to take a panoramic picture of its current environment. When it has that, it knows its surroundings, meaning that the user can come along to the software and say, I want to look at that specific portion that the camera has the potential to see. What you then do is you click on that area of the panoramic image and the camera will lock on directly to that precise point in one single click. I don't even have to talk about why that's a great feature. You don't have to go through any of the settings, you don't have to zoom in, you don't have to move the angle left or right. It's literally one tap on the panoramic picture and the camera will adjust. If you find that the camera is detecting too much, or even that the cat or dog walks past and you don't want it always to pick up every specific movement, what you can do is you can adjust the sensitivity within the app so it only tolerates when a human walks past rather than a small object, such as a small child or a pet. If you want to scream and shout at them in your house, you have the option of using the two-way audio, which means that via the software on your phone, you can push down, say, get out of my house now, and the camera will play that sound. It's going to scare them. They're not going to expect some voice to come out of some small electronic device on a cabinet. Obviously, by that point, they're probably going to run out your house or just go, what was that? Either way, it's a feature you can have, even just to play a prank on your friends if you want to. I'm not advocating that, but you can do it. I mentioned earlier about not having the option to have battery power and it just relying on power, meaning that you can't move it around freely around your house as much as you could with wireless power. That's true. However, when it comes to internet connectivity, you can choose via Ethernet or via Wi-Fi. Most of this camera's power, in terms of usability, comes when combined with the My D-Link app. This is the app that is the central location to deal with most D-Link devices. And I have to say, the older iterations of the D-Link software was a bit clunky. It wasn't the quickest when you load up certain modules, and when you wanted to go to the next setting or back one, it just had an overall lag and not a great user experience. However, in the last couple of months they have had a major overhaul of this application, and I can safely say it's a lot better. It's not perfect. You're going to find the app crashes from time to time, the camera preview windows take a while to generate. When you click on it to go into the camera, it does take a little longer than I would have liked, but it's definitely a massive upgrade. Within the app you can also configure notifications, so that if somebody was to walk up to your living room door and the camera detects it, you can get a text message. You can then use some of the automation capability within the app to set up some automation rules. So you can have If the camera detects someone walking to the room, send me a text message and an email, and also turn on the other smart plugs that I have, let's say. That's just an example, but you can use the if this then that capabilities as well as the inbuilt automation rules to really bring your home to a security standard that's somewhat futuristic. Now let's talk about some of the things that aren't that great about this camera. The first thing that comes to mind is that in certain lighting conditions, the camera picks up quite a strong strobing effect. It doesn't usually happen, but let's say you have a really bright light behind the camera lens. The camera will try and interpret that lighting and adjust accordingly. You'll also see somewhat of a strobing effect, which doesn't look great, but it doesn't destroy the camera or the footage. It's more of an annoyance rather than a problem. The other side of things is what I mentioned earlier about the somewhat clunky application, the My D-Link app. It is improving, but it's not quite perfect yet. If you've used D-Link products in the past, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But as I said previously, it's getting a lot better. So overall, this camera is aimed at those people that want a camera that they're going to put in their house or in some property that they own, and they want to monitor the goings-on of people passing through, people entering that space within a certain time frame, and applying some automation rules and just trying to increase their smart home presence. Also, I forgot to mention, it is incredibly easy to add this into My D-Link. All you have to do is scan the QR code on the bottom. It will take you through the wizard, and then you'll have it enrolled. Open the app, scan the QR code on the bottom, follow the wizard, connect it to your network, and you're done. There's no configuration of firewall policies, there's no port forwarding, no nothing. You add it via the QR code, the app joins to your network, and then enrolls the camera. As simple as that. It's not going to break the bank, and to be honest with you, I definitely think this is worth considering, especially as D-Link has a wide range of products that meet the surveillance category that can all be tied together using the My D-Link app and the My D-Link environment or ecosystem. If you have any questions about this device, please leave them in a comment below and I will do my best to get back to you. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Adam from Ads Productions.